if you've been with me now for this whole episode, you're intoxicated right now. You may even still be feeling turmoil in your body, but you're intoxicated, guys. I probably look silly right now because I'm intoxicated. Don't be afraid to look silly in the world.
But as I contemplate that, and I've watched that clip several times, I still feel like I'm missing something, because it feels like there's like a doing of, but I don't quite understand what it means fully. I wondered if you could just say more about that. And this was, by the way, in response to someone's question about they were dealing with fear. And you used the analogy of, what is it about vacations that we like so much? Because we are very much in the moment. We don't have to worry about the past. We don't have any concerns about the future. So he says you don't have to go on vacation. You can take refuge in the now. But I feel like I'm just not quite understanding it. It seems like there might be some kind of doing that might be a great coping mechanism for difficult feelings. But can you say more about that?
Yes, when we go on a vacation, we very often want to go on a vacation in order to get away from our present circumstance. It's like a relief from our present circumstance. In other words, the impulse to go on vacation, not suggesting there's anything wrong with going on vacation, but the impulse is to get away from what is currently present and replace it with something which is going to happen in the future. So it's a movement away from our current experience. And this is the not just the desire to go on vacation, but this is how most people deal with suffering. If you think when we're suffering in any way, there is usually some impulse in us to go towards something or someone that is not present. So we might go towards an object or a substance or an activity or a practice or a relationship. It's always a movement from our current experience to something or someone with the hopes that thing will provide relief from the suffering.
Guys, this is the great Rupert Spira, who is a very famous non-duality teacher.
Sure, I was referring
and
to.
I just want to reflect upon what he's saying now.
If we really want relief from suffering, we shouldn't move away from it into some kind of objective experience, but we should go deeply into it. That what we long for resides at the very heart of our suffering, or we could say just the other side, just underneath it. We have to go through it.
The way out is through, guys. We go full circle to the self-development people. The way out
just
is through.
It, at the very heart of it.
Really, within it. Listen to this very carefully, guys.
When I said take refuge in the now, and another way of expressing that would be, don't escape into thinking. Escape into thinking is the subtlest form of reaching for an object. It's not physically reaching for a substance or a person, but our thought takes us away from the now into some imagined past or future in which we seek relief.
Imagine past or future.
When I say come into the now, it's like another way of saying that would be, imagine you're a newborn infant. You don't have a past to refer to, and you're not able to think. You come to your present experience. So everyone could ask themselves this question now. And this really will only work if you're feeling some level of suffering now. So just imagine, but just try and evoke some subtle quality of boredom or irritation or sadness. And then ask yourself, without reference to thought or memory, How would I know that I'm suffering?
How would I know that I'm suffering? You actually have to love the feeling of
Without reference
suffering,
to
guys.
thoughts or
I've talked
memory,
about
would
this
I
in many videos.
conceptualize my current experience as suffering?
Who interprets it as suffering?
No, the suffering is not in the actual experience itself. The suffering is in our desire to escape from it. So if we go in the opposite direction, if we so fully accept the current experience so that there's no impulse to move away from it, right there, and the way I evoke this feeling of acceptance, because sometimes if we feel
surrender,
the experience is very painful, we feel, I can't accept this. So that's why I take the image of the newborn child. The newborn child cannot,
as the biblical scriptures say,
no past.
you must become again as a child.
Its current experience. So
say, I
the
love
purpose
this
of
feeling.
using the image of the newborn child is to bring us back to the inescapable now, our current experience, which without reference to thought or memory, we wouldn't know we were suffering. It's not possible to suffer in the now. There is no suffering in the now.
How could we suffer
Our
without
suffering is contained
interpretation?
in the distance between now and where I want to be. Or suffering is the tension between now and not now, where I want to be. But if we take away the possibility of where I want to be, by taking away
just
the
for a
possibility
second,
of thought or memory, we imagine we're the newborn infant, all we can experience is this experience. There is no suffering there. There may be a certain intensity of sensation, but that sensation is not psychological suffering.
it's just a feeling, like
So that's why
Krishnamurti said. It's your arm.
The place of peace, the place of refuge, is not in an escape from the now, even into some beautiful spiritual samadhi or no, the real refuge from our suffering is at the very heart of our suffering. Or we could say just underneath our suffering. That is the place of peace. Any attempt at alleviating our suffering through moving away from our experience will at best only be a temporary resolution. But as soon as that object disappears, the suffering will come back. So, and that requires courage.
This is
Real
confession,
courage,
guys.
Because the impulse, when we are
Confess
suffering,
it. I feel this way.
the impulse,
I own
there's
it,
such a strong
and
impulse
I
in us to
feel the
flee
feeling
the
of it,
suffering.
and I
I
love
just want to get out of it. The
that
object, a fridge, a YouTube clip, a non-dual YouTube clip. Non-dual YouTube clips are particularly dangerous because they come
even
with
YouTube
a kind
clips,
of
guys, even
legitimate-
videos like this.
a label that suggests that they are a legitimate avoidance of suffering.
There's no
I'm not
avoidance.
suggesting there's anything wrong with the occasional
Remember,
YouTube
there's no
clip, but actually,
repelling in
at
the
a certain
universe,
point,
guys.
We should even
In this duality, there's
deny
only
ourselves
attraction.
the possibility of a non-dual YouTube clip.
When
or
you
a
say
non-dual
no, you're
book.
saying
at
yes.
At a certain point, I'm not suggesting non-dual books are not valid, that they are, but at some point, even these can be subtle ways of avoiding our suffering, kind of spiritual ways of avoiding our suffering, and it would be more courageous at that moment to say, no, I'm not going to move away even into some spiritual activity. I'm not even going to meditate, because of meditating, why do I want to meditate? To avoid my suffering. What would be truly meditation at that moment would be to not allow ourselves
Go
any
into it,
avenue
guys.
of escape,
Love it.
and to come
Observe
fully
it.
to go deeper into the experience itself until there were no possibility of escaping. And right there at the heart of that experience, we would find the peace we were longing for. And as I say, it
So welcome, ladies and gentlemen, once again to our Sunday Satsang, our Sunday service. And again, this is a safe space, guys, for everybody. It's not sectarian, it's not religious, it's not preaching a certain ideology. It's just for everybody who wants more peace, more success, most importantly, more knowing, not theoretical knowledge, but more knowing of who they are, of what this is, guys. This is a simulation, ladies and gentlemen, and it's worth noting. I was reading earlier this week, and I had read this before, I knew this before, but this is not mysticism, this is not woo-woo, this is stone cold sober physics. The spectrum of light, the frequency of light that is prevalent in our existence is not sufficient to see maybe 1/1 billionth of what's actually there. And that's just on this timeline. That's just on this dimension. Forget about other dimensions and other timelines, guys. We only can see a very tiny fraction of what actually exists. And we derive our philosophies from that. We judge our realities from that. We make decisions as to who we are from that. And guys, the most frustrating thing to me is we make determinations and limitations on ourselves as to what's possible, as to who we are and what we are, based upon this tiny frequency. And of course, science has PhDs on it and studies very well, very meticulously, very rigorously, this tiny sliver of reality that we can see and that we can experience. What the real Javier Novoa aims to do is to expand that experience just a little bit, to know who you really are, and then to put everything in your life into perspective, and so that you may know yourself as a truly unlimited, supernatural, divine being. That's true awakening, guys. That's true enlightenment, and it's the way to transcend this simulation. It's the way to transcend what we call the prison grid. So, just listening to this beautiful music. The ones who are watching this video right now, the ones who sat through 9 minutes of Rupert Spira and are still with me at this point, you are the advanced of the advanced students, and we're all students. You're the advanced students of this, the advanced students of reality. And while it's beautiful to do energy cleansing, it's beautiful to meditate, it's beautiful to do the Wim Hof breathing, this week we're not going to do it. And there's nothing wrong with going back and forth between these modalities. For us, I just want to sit in presence for a minute. And here's the real secret, guys. Here's the real advanced level of this. Not even trying to get into the present moment, because the present moment is itself a concept. It might be one of the last concepts to be dropped. It's a teaching tool. It in itself can be a limiting factor. So what I want you to sit with right now is simply the I am. I am. You might have had a stressful week at work. I know I have. You might have had conflicts this week. You might still have things going on in your body, guys. You might have anxiety, nervousness. This week, I don't even want you to try to get calm. I don't want you to try to get rid of it. What I want you to do is welcome it in. I want you to sit with it. I want you to love it. And love it doesn't mean like it, guys. Of course, we're not liking it, otherwise we'd feel great about it. Loving it is observing it in that space-like modality, because it's not space, because again, I will continue to use these words. We will use words like space and so on and so forth, but it's not space because, guys, space is assuming that there are two things and then a space between them, right? But there are no two things. There are no things, because we know that existence is at root unitary. So strip yourself right now of all those concepts, all that vocabulary, all the things that sound good and sound right in a Sunday Satsang. Again, we're not going to stay here because not everyone's on the same level. We're going to keep using the terms we've been using, but just for today, guys, let's be just naked and at one with this oneness. I like what Wim Hof actually said to one of the famous podcasters, I don't remember his name now, when he took him to do a cold plunge. I believe it was in the River Thames. And, it was Russell Brand. And Russell Brand asked Wim Hof, what should I focus on? And Wim Hof said, nothing. So right now, focus on nothing. Which is really just focusing on everything, actually, because there is no thing, just as there is no everything. Everything is one. And you don't have to focus on anything. We're above all that. We've transcended that now. If you're here, you've transcended, not even focusing on the word, but focus on the feeling, I am. I am. Despite all of my problems, which I'm confessing now, I'm not suppressing them. I'm not saying that I have no problems. I'm not trying to visualize and imagine anything, although there is a time for that. And we will and can do that too, but just for now, I am the presence that not only transcends all of that, because that's another dual concept, as if I'm leaving all of that over here, but I am all of that. And I am love, because God is love. Therefore, God is it. Therefore, it is love. You know, I love the teachings of Lester Levinson, who was an American spiritual teacher. He wrote, or he gave lectures that formed the basis of the book Happiness is Free, and it's a great book to read also. Also, he was the formulator of the Sedona method. And the Sedona method is this, is what we're doing now. Simply being with and observing any state of feelings or circumstances within or without the body, and just allowing them to naturally flower and then dissolve and just be. And Lester Levinson had all of these, shall we say, dual polar statements. And you can basically toggle realities, and a lot of spiritual teachers talk about this. So let's say you're feeling anxiety. You can say, I cannot be happy while I feel this anxiety, and you are in that reality. Then you can go the polar opposite and say, I can be happy in this feeling of anxiety, and feel that. And just toggle those. And actually see which one feels better, but most of all, see which one is closer to your core being, do it for a while. Take any problem that's going on in your life, anything that you've been going through this week, and say, I cannot be happy until this is resolved. And then on the other side, say, I am happy no matter whether it's resolved or not. I can be happy with this. And just breathe in that, whatever it is that you're facing. And if you're not facing anything, because if you're really, really an advanced practitioner of this, you're not facing anything because all of your anxieties and negative emotions are being resolved in the moment. Why? Because you're surrendering to them completely. This is surrender. And if you're on that level, I congratulate you. I'm not yet on that level. I'm getting there. But if you're on that level, then right now you're simply at bliss. You're at complete bliss right now. Just ride that. So, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to sit with you. See, this is a satsang, but this is not like a sermon of a teacher. I don't see myself in that sense. I do sort of see myself as a spiritual teacher, but ultimately, I see myself as a fellow student. And basically, we're all sitting here. We're all working out our awakening, or as the Bible said, working out our salvation with fear and trembling. And by the way, that fear is not a negative fear. That fear is, oh my gosh, a beautiful awe. Like, I'm in awe that you gave me this. And the irony is that when you surrender, you're completely where you want to be. And at that point, you need no processes and you need no tools. Of course, we give processes and tools because they're fun, guys. But the moment that you say, I need this process, the moment that you condemn yourself for not participating in that process, I'd say stop and surrender. Because at that point, the process is not serving you. Abraham Hicks says it so well. So surrender. What you do is, Abraham Hicks talked about this and Ashley calls it step 5. Because we know on a certain level, on the level of duality and multiplicity, where law of attraction abounds and reigns supreme, that when you know what you don't want, you know what you do want. And an automatic rocket of desire is shot. Neville Goddard talks about this from the law of assumption perspective in the story of Daniel in the lion's den. And he said, when you're in prison, you know immediately that you want freedom. You don't even have to articulate it, guys. And all of these tools of knowing exactly what you want and articulating it and writing it down, again, they're good tools. But what it's there for is to help you focus on that and keep your eye on the prize in adverse circumstances. But there's a level above that, because we know that adverse circumstances are a part and parcel of this existence, guys. It's why we came. Because remember, if we wanted no adverse circumstances, if we wanted no suffering, why the heck would we come down here? And in fact, one great spiritual teacher, a great teacher whom I admire and who I've read many of his books, he's banned from YouTube, unfortunately, but he goes far into the political and conspiratorial aspects of this. He's absolutely right on his own level. But he says, I know all of this now, and I would never come back. Why would I come back to this prison grid, to this simulation that seems like it's being controlled by dark forces? And indeed, again, there's a prism, a point of view in which that's absolutely correct. But I would ask him, why did you come in the first place, being divine and being the all? We came in the first place to experience the diverse circumstances, to experience contrast. And that's exactly what Abraham Hicks talks about. So I wouldn't say I don't want to come here. I came here because I wanted to. We all came here because we wanted to. And we came to experience the contrast. In fact, guys, the juice is not in getting what you want. This may be news to some. It's not about getting what you want, guys. It's about the contrast on the way to getting what you want. And of course, the higher level of this, I'm not going to call it the last level or the last frontier, because there are no last levels. We're constantly evolving and growing in this simulation, in this game, guys. The next level of this is to not try to escape the suffering, but to face it head on, to go deep within it, and to realize your I am, to realize your core within that. And to say, yay, this is what I came here for. I'm now experiencing this, and more importantly, God is asking, who is you guys, but is separate from above the simulation. God is asking you, what do you want me to become for you now in this adverse situation? So we learn to embrace suffering, guys. Not only embrace it, to joyfully welcome it and to live it, and not to work, not to make effort, but to allow the suffering itself to yield those rockets of desire that Abraham Hicks talks about, and to have fun with it. Now, those of us who are spiritual, those of us who know these principles and practice them, the irony is we don't suffer very much. And it's, as Joe Dispenza says, we can all react, and that's beautiful, but the question is, how long do you want to stay in that? Abraham Hicks says, how big do you want to make that gap between where you want and where you are? You have your hands on all of those gauges, and I'd want to make it, just from my own human perspective, as short as possible. So, again, paradoxically, and we talk about paradox in this channel a lot, paradox is all over the spiritual world. Paradoxically, the more you embrace that suffering, the quicker it goes, and the quicker you get to what you want. Try it this week, guys. Any suffering that you confront, say, I love it. Friedrich Nietzsche called it amor fati, the love of fate. And fate is indeed operant on these film rolls. Remember, these film rolls are all predestined. You get to choose the film roll that you're on. But once you're on that film roll, it is unfolding, as Neville Goddard said, under compulsion, by fate. So the quickest way off this film roll and to another film roll is amor fati. And we go full circle to Stoicism. That's why we talk a lot about Stoicism on this channel. So, just for this week, guys, whatever happens to you, love it. And I'm not saying force yourself to like it. I'm saying observe it, allow that space-like quality to surround it, know it, feel it completely, and paradoxically, see how fast you get out of it. So let's just sit for a moment here in the silence, in the I am. I am, guys, no matter what anxieties within me, I love it. I accept it. And all of it goes, guys. It leaves the body very quickly. And you're back to that feeling of intoxication. But now, guys, our intoxication is not a forced intoxication. It's not taking a break from circumstances. It's in the midst of it, guys. It's what John Kabat-Zinn calls full catastrophe living. You're living in the full catastrophe of life. And you're drunk, you're intoxicated. If you've been with me now for this whole episode, you're intoxicated right now. You may even still be feeling turmoil in your body, but you're intoxicated, guys. I probably look silly right now because I'm intoxicated. There's a very strange but very understandable Russian Orthodox tradition called Fools for Christ. And these people would walk around acting like drunk fools, but they were not intoxicated through alcohol. They were intoxicated by the Spirit. They were intoxicated through contact with who they really were, knowing who they really were, and they ran around like mad people. And they are considered saints in the Russian Orthodox tradition, guys. Don't be afraid to be a fool in the world, because, again, this is simply a game. It's simply a simulation. And I say, let's enjoy it to the fullest. And the only way you can is by embodying these principles. So I wish you a very lovely week, full of success, full of blessings, and even with some contrast, guys, because it's in the contrast where you're going to find the really delicious aspects of life and where you're going to shoot off those rockets of desire. So please, guys, if you find this channel of value, do hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. We're going to be coming out with a lot of interesting videos this week about the simulation, about, of course, living free, about interiorism. So until very soon, guys, with much love and appreciation, I'm wishing you a wonderful week. And just this presence that we're in now, just carry it through. There's no beginning point and no ending point. See you later.